Disclaimer: this content is for a mature audience only. Viewer discretion is advised. I never thought my life would turn out like this. When I married Ahan, I believed in love, in forever, in the promises we whispered to each other under the stars. But love isn't always gentle. Sometimes it's a storm that leaves you stranded with no way back. Ahan was everything a woman could wish for: charming, kind, and utterly devoted. Or at least, that's what I thought. In the beginning, he made me feel safe, like I was the center of his universe. But as time passed, the cracks began to show. Love turned into control, care became suffocation, and soon I found myself trapped in a world where my choices were no longer mine. It started small. Ahan would decide what I should wear, who I could meet, how I should speak. "I just want the best for you," he'd say, with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. I convinced myself it was love. After all, wasn't love about making sacrifices? But then, one night, everything changed. That night, Ahan came home late. His face was tense, his usual warmth replaced by something colder, something unfamiliar. He sat me down, held my hands, and in a voice that sent chills down my spine, he said, "You have to do this for me. We have no other option." His grip tightened. My heart pounded. I wanted to say no. I wanted to fight back. But when the person you love becomes the one you fear, saying no isn't always an option. I had no choice. My husband made me do it. But what exactly did Ahan ask me to do? Was it something small, or was it something that would change my life forever? And more importantly, if I went through with it, would I ever be able to live with myself? Before you judge, ask yourself, what would you do if the person you trusted the most pushed you into something you never imagined doing? Tell me in the comments, and let's talk about the choices we make and the ones made for us. Stay tuned for the full story in the next episode. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I sat there, frozen. Ahan's fingers were still wrapped around mine, firm but trembling slightly, as if he was as afraid as I was. His eyes searched mine, waiting for an answer, but how could I give one when I didn't even understand the question? "What? What do you mean?" My voice barely came out as a whisper. Ahan exhaled sharply and looked away. "I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important," he said, rubbing his temples. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by something I couldn't quite recognize. Desperation, maybe? Fear? 1,000 thoughts ran through my mind. What had he done? Or worse, what was he about to make me do? I wanted to believe that this was just another one of those moments, the kind that passed quickly. Ahan had always been the one in control, the one who made decisions, but never before had he looked at me like this, as if he needed me to be a part of something bigger than both of us, as if my choice, if I even had one, would change everything. "Ahan," I said, forcing myself to keep my voice steady, "you're scaring me." For a moment, I thought he might tell me the truth. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. His grip on my hands loosened, and he stood up, pacing the room. The dim light from the lamp cast long shadows on the walls, making everything feel even more unreal. "I messed up, Meera," he finally admitted, his voice barely audible. My stomach twisted. "Messed up how?" Silence. That silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating, filling the space where honesty should have been. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears, an unsettling rhythm matching the fear creeping into my chest. Then Ahan turned to me, his expression unreadable. "I need you to trust me, just this once." Trust. The word felt hollow now. For years I had trusted him. I had let him make choices for me, let him guide me, let him tell me what was best. And now, here we were, standing on the edge of something I didn't understand. I swallowed hard, my mouth dry. Ahan, whatever this is, tell me now, please. His jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists. And then, in a voice so low I almost didn't hear it, he finally said the words that changed everything. You have to help me fix this, or we both lose everything. What do you think Ahan is hiding? Drop your guesses in the comments and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Ahan's words hung in the air like a storm cloud, heavy and unshakable. Fix this? My mind raced. What had he done that was so bad, so irreversible, that he needed me to be part of the solution? He sat down on the edge of the bed, rubbing his hands together, his leg bouncing anxiously. I had never seen him like this before. Ahan was always in control, always the one with a plan. But now he looked lost. Ahan, I tried again, softer this time. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. But you have to tell me the truth. He hesitated, then finally spoke. It's about my work. His voice was low, as if he was afraid someone might hear. There was a deal, something that should have gone smoothly, but I made a mistake, and now they're coming for me. A shiver ran down my spine. Who's coming for you? Ahan looked up at me then, and for the first time in our marriage, I saw pure, unfiltered fear in his eyes. You don't need to know the details, he said quickly. Just trust me when I say, I don't have time to fix this alone. My hands clenched into fists. Trust me. He kept saying those words as if they were enough. But were they? For years I had blindly followed him, believing that he always knew what was best. But now, doubt crept in, whispering things I didn't want to hear. I took a slow breath. And what exactly do you need me to do? His jaw tensed. I need you to meet someone, just for a few minutes. It's nothing dangerous. You just have to pass along a message. A message? My heart pounded. This wasn't just a small mistake. This was something bigger, something I was being dragged into without even knowing the full truth. If it's nothing dangerous, I said carefully, why can't you do it yourself? Ahan exhaled, shaking his head. Because they don't trust me anymore. The words sent a chill through me. If they didn't trust him, why would they trust me? And more importantly, what kind of people were we dealing with? Ahan reached for my hand again. Meera, please, just this once. If we don't do this, we lose everything. I swallowed hard, my mind screaming at me to say no. But then another thought crept in. What if it was already too late? What would you do in Meera's place? Would you trust Ahan or walk away? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Ahan's hand tightened around mine, his fingers slightly trembling. I could feel his desperation, the unspoken fear hidden behind his steady voice. The man I had once believed to be unshakable was now pleading with me, asking me to step into something I didn't understand. I wanted to say no. Every part of me screamed to walk away, to turn back before it was too late. But his eyes, those same eyes that once looked at me with love, now carried something else, a silent plea, a warning. What if I say no? I asked, barely recognizing my own voice. Ahan swallowed hard. You won't. It wasn't a threat. It was certainty. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to steady my breathing. Who do I have to meet? He hesitated before answering. His name is Rishi. The name meant nothing to me, but the way Ahan said it, like it carried weight, like it was dangerous just to speak it out loud, made my stomach twist. And what do I have to tell him? Ahan glanced at his phone, as if expecting a message. His leg was bouncing again. You don't have to say much. Just meet him at the cafe near the old market. Tell him I sent you. He'll know. That's it? I asked, my voice shaking. He nodded, but I could see the way his shoulders tensed. He wasn't telling me everything. I stood up, wrapping my arms around myself. And after that? What happens then? Ahan ran a hand through his hair, exhaling. Then, we see if he still wants to fix things. It wasn't an answer, not really. But I had already gone too far. That night, sleep didn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, my mind raced with possibilities. Who was Rishi? What had Ahan done that was so unforgivable? And why was I the one being dragged into it? Morning arrived too quickly. My hands shook as I got ready, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure Ahan could hear it. He didn't say much as I left, just a simple, "Be careful." The cafe was nearly empty when I arrived. The air was thick with the smell of old books and coffee, but it did little to calm my nerves. I scanned the room, my eyes stopping at a man sitting alone in the corner. He was dressed in black, stirring his coffee slowly, his eyes sharp as he looked up and met mine. Rishi. I forced myself to walk over, every step feeling heavier than the last. He watched me carefully as I sat down across from him. Ahan sent me, I said, barely above a whisper. Rishi didn't react right away. He just kept stirring his coffee, the clinking sound of the spoon against the cup, filling the silence between us. Then, finally, he smirked. I was wondering when you'd show up. Something about the way he said it sent a shiver down my spine. Before I could respond, he reached into his pocket and slid something across the table, a folded piece of paper. My hands trembled as I picked it up, unfolding it slowly. The moment I saw what was written inside, my breath caught in my throat. Everything I thought I knew about Ahan, about my life, collapsed in an instant. What do you think was written in the note? Comment your guesses below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. My fingers trembled as I unfolded the note, my breath shallow, my heart racing. The words on the paper were hastily written, as if someone had scrawled them in urgency, their hand unsteady. My eyes darted over the letters, and the moment the message sank in, my stomach turned to ice. You're in danger. Leave now. Don't trust Ahan. The world around me seemed to blur. My pulse pounded in my ears, drowning out the soft hum of the cafe. I looked up at Rishi, my throat dry, but he just sat there, watching me, his expression unreadable. I wanted to ask him what this meant. Why should I not trust Ahan? What danger was I in? But something in Rishi's gaze told me that he was waiting for my reaction, watching to see whether I'd run or whether I'd press for answers. I swallowed hard and forced my voice to stay steady. What is this supposed to mean? Rishi leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers lightly against his coffee cup. It means exactly what it says. Anger flared inside me. If you know something, just tell me. He sighed as if debating whether he should say more. Then, after a long pause, he leaned forward. Ahan didn't send you here just to pass a message, did he? I stiffened. He said it was to fix things. Rishi let out a humorless chuckle. And you believed him? I felt my chest tighten. I had believed him because I had no reason not to. But now, sitting across from this stranger who seemed to know more than I did, doubt crept into my mind. Ahan has been lying to you, Rishi said, his voice softer now, almost pitying. This mess he's in, it's bigger than you think. And now, because you're here, you're part of it. A chill ran down my spine. Part of what? Before he could answer, the door to the cafe swung open, and I felt the shift in the air before I even turned around. Someone had just entered, and whoever it was, Rishi's expression changed instantly. His casual demeanor disappeared, his shoulders tensing as his eyes flicked toward the entrance. I followed his gaze, my breath catching when I saw them. Two men standing near the door, scanning the room. Rishi's hand moved subtly under the table. "Listen carefully," he murmured, his voice lower than before. "When I get up, wait 3 seconds, then walk out the back door. Don't look back. Don't stop." Panic surged inside me. "What? Who are they?" He didn't answer. Instead, he picked up his coffee and took one last sip, then pushed back his chair and stood. The moment he did, the two men's eyes locked onto him. I could feel their stares, sharp and assessing, and I knew, whoever they weren't here for coffee. I forced myself to count. 1, 2, 3. Then, trying to control my shaking legs, I stood up and walked toward the back door. My heart beat so loud it drowned out everything else. Was Rishi telling the truth? Had Ahan really lied to me? And if he had, what had I just walked into? What do you think Meera should do next? Should she confront Ahan or keep running? Comment your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I pushed open the back door, my hands slick with sweat. The cool air hit my face, but it did nothing to calm the storm inside me. My heart pounded as I stepped into the dimly lit alley, my breaths shaky. Rishi's warning echoed in my head. Don't trust Ahan. But how could I not? He was my husband. My whole life was built around him. And yet, something inside me whispered that Rishi wasn't lying. Footsteps. Close. Too close. I turned sharply, expecting to see Rishi following me, but instead, my heart stopped. Ahan stood at the other end of the alley, his face shadowed under the flickering streetlight. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes, those eyes I had once trusted blindly, held something dark, something I had never seen before. "You shouldn't have come here, Meera." His voice was low, steady. Fear tightened around my throat. "What's going on, Ahan?" Rishi said. "I don't care what Rishi said." His tone sharpened, and in that instant, I knew. He had been lying to me. I took a step back. "Did you set me up?" Ahan exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "You don't understand." "Then make me understand." My voice cracked. "You told me I had no choice. You made me come here. And now Rishi says I'm in danger? What did you drag me into?" Ahan hesitated. For the first time, I saw something flicker in his expression. Guilt, regret, but it was too late for that now. "I needed you to be the distraction." His voice was quiet, almost apologetic. "Rishi wasn't supposed to talk to you. He was supposed to be too busy watching you to see what I was really doing." My stomach dropped. "What? What were you doing?" Ahan took a step closer. "Fixing my mistake." Before I could process his words, a sharp click echoed in the alley. A gun, not from Ahan, but from behind me. I turned just in time to see Rishi, his face unreadable, pointing the weapon not at Ahan, but at me. "I told you to run, Meera." His voice was quiet. "You should have listened." Everything slowed. Ahan didn't move. I stood frozen between two men, one who had lied to me and one who had tried to save me. But now I wasn't sure who the real threat was. And then, just as I thought I had figured it out, Ahan whispered one last thing. "Meera, I was never the one in control." The world blurred as realization hit me. The danger had never been about Ahan. It had always been about me. What do you think Meera's next move should be? Comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Ahan's words echoed in my mind. I was never the one in control. Rishi's grip on the gun tightened, but his eyes flickered with hesitation. For a moment, the entire world held still. The only sound was my own breath, shallow and uneven. Then, in an instant, a Han moved. It happened so fast. A Han lunged, knocking me out of the way just as Rishi's finger pressed the trigger. A sharp sound cracked through the air, followed by the dull thud of a body hitting the ground. I gasped, scrambling to my feet, my heart hammering in my chest. Ahan was slumped against the wall, his hand clutching his side where blood was quickly spreading. Rishi stood over him, his face unreadable, his gun lowered slightly, as if even he hadn't expected things to turn out this way. Ahan coughed, his breathing ragged, but he still managed to smirk. Guess I still had some control after all. Tears blurred my vision. Why? My voice broke. Why didn't you just tell me the truth? Ahan exhaled slowly. Because you wouldn't have believed it, and because I couldn't risk losing you. Rishi took a step back, looking at me instead of Ahan now. You still don't get it, do you? He muttered. This was never about him. It was about you. Confusion twisted in my chest. Me? Rishi nodded. Ahan made a mistake, sure, but the only reason I let him live this long was because of you. I looked at Ahan, my mind racing. And then it hit me. Ahan had never been the target. I was. The realization sent a chill down my spine. But before I could speak, the sound of sirens filled the air, growing louder. Rishi's expression hardened. This isn't over. He turned and disappeared into the shadows, just as flashing red and blue lights flooded the alley. I dropped to my knees beside Ahan, pressing my hands against his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Stay with me. He gave me a weak smile. I had no choice, Meera. I shook my head, tears falling. Neither did I. The sirens stopped. Footsteps rushed toward us, and just like that, everything changed. And that's how it ends? Or is it? What do you think happened next? Should there be a sequel? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories.